My name is Albert O. Purser, better known as Chick, and I was born in March 29, 25. I was in the Navy.
Okay. And what did you serve? You served in World War II, correct?
Right.
Okay. Why did you pick the Navy?
I don't know, I just thought it might be better, really.
Okay.
Of course,
go ahead.
I was just 18-year-old. I registered in March of 29th when I was, and in 41. And I was a junior in high school. So I was drafted, I had to register on my 18th birthday. And so I registered, and they took me when I was a junior in high school. I was a selective volunteer. That was because I chose the Navy instead of the Army.
Do you recall like the first couple days in the service?
Certainly. I went to Fort Oglethorpe. At first, they had an examination. You know where you don't remember where the old Dayton Bank was. Dr. Rogers gave us from high school. There's about 8 or 10 of us boys left school, went over from. Then the next day or two, they called us to go to Fort Oglethorpe. That's unknown. And we went down there and stayed one night. I did it at the Army base. Then when I joined the Navy, they sent us over to YMCA at the post office in Chattanooga. Then I went home and I went to Great Lakes, Illinois. And they let me stay. We stayed a week and then I came back home and went back. Then when I got through with my boat training in Great Lakes, I went to Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, to radio school. When I graduated there, I went over in December and graduated in July 4th of 44. Then I went to amphibious base in Little Creek, Virginia. Then after that, we formed our company in Little Creek. And we went to Houston, Texas for a ship. That's where they built my ship. It's LSM 98. It's a landing ship medium. That's amphibious force. Then we took it down in Gulf Bay and got it ready to go, made sure everything worked. Then we went to Gulfport, Mississippi, and picked up a load of piling to take to Guam. So we went through the Panama Canal to San Diego. Stayed there 3 days, left out, and went to Pearl Harbor. We stayed there about 3 days. Then we went to Guam. What we took those pilings there for was to make breakers for docks, because they didn't have, and that's the only place they had there to dock, and we had to take those pilings. You know what those pilings were? The same as light poles. And then we went to Saipan, then Anahuac, picked up some Marines and their dogs, took them to Iwo Jima, where we stayed there 13 months unloading cargo ships because we could hit the beach. And we unloaded that, and then right after the war was over, there's a bunch of Bonin Islands. Well, Iwo was part of the Bonin Islands. It ran from Iwo up to Japan. We went to those islands to make sure that they knew the war was over, and we collected their guns. Took them out in the ocean and dumped them. Came back to Iwo, left there and went back to Saipan. Then when we left Saipan, we came back to Pearl Harbor. Then from there we came back to San Francisco. When we came out of the Golden Gate Bridge, we knew we were home. And so they took a picture of my ship. I have it. It's a large enlargement of the ship I was on. Then after we left there, we went to Astor, Oregon, up to Portland, Oregon. That's where they scrapped the ship. Then I came to Memphis and got discharged on April the 22nd, 1946. Got back in Dayton, 8:15 the next morning. Took all night. Then I was home. I lived in the country out on Cottonport, south of Cottonport. So I went home. That's the end of my tour. Was that enough?
Well, do you mind if I ask you a couple more questions?
Yes, that's whatever you want to.
Okay. You mentioned Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Do you remember what went through your mind the day that happened?
Well, see, I was really too young. When December 7th of 1941, see, I was just a kid then. And I remember hearing it on the radio, you know, but that's about as far as it went. Because I was young then, you don't think about stuff.
Okay. What was your job?
I was a radio in third class.
Okay.
Radio operator, third class.
Okay. Did you see any combat?
No, we weren't, but not actually combat, because we got the Evo right after they secured the island. But we supplied them with material there to finish up in Evo. It was about all. We wasn't really close to anything like combat.
Okay. Do you have any memorable experiences from that time that you could tell me about?
Not really, only it was something different, you know. It was altogether different than what I was used to. That's about all, like, really, that we had.
Okay. Can you tell me kind of what went through your mind when you said you volunteered?
Yeah, see, I was drafted, so we went to Fort Oglethorpe to be examined. And then they had, you could choose Army, Navy, or whatever, and I chose the Navy.
And why did you choose the Navy?
What did I choose?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was the best place to go be.
Okay.
We got to sleep and eat and to dry all the time.
I just had a question in my head that went out. Can you kind of tell me, like, set the scene, what it was like for you when you first enlisted and then you kind of set off into World War II?
What? I need to tell you, what do you want to know, honey?
I mean, just what was it like back then, during that time?
It was altogether a different world.
Okay.
Really, when you're 18-year-old and you've never been outside of Dayton, you don't know what's going on. Old country pud went to town.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Well, I just had the ribbons, the Freedom Ribbon, the Pacific Ribbon, and the Good Medal Ribbon.
Let's see. How did you stay in touch with your family during that time?
Letter.
Okay. Do you have any photographs or anything like that?
I have a bunch of them at home.
That you've kept from that time?
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of pictures.
Okay. You mentioned the Golden Gate bridges, and that's when you said you knew that you were home. What did that feel like for you?
It was wonderful to be back home. But you know, really and truly, I just took it in stride. All the time I was in the Navy, I just thought, well, now I got to be in here, and there ain't no use of worrying about, crying about not being home. So I just served my years out in good faith, and that was all there was to it. I'm really proud that I served. I don't think it's really something that distinguishes or doesn't, but I'm proud that I served, you know.
What did you do in the days and weeks afterward, after you were out of the service?
I didn't do much of anything. I stayed home. My dad was a farmer, and I stayed home and helped him that summer before I went to work.
Okay. Did you make any close friendships during that time?
Oh, yes.
Did you keep in touch with them over the years?
One of them altogether. One guy, we were real close. And I used to talk to him on the phone. We had a good time on the phone. Gertrude in Ohio. But I believe he's passed away. But I never did hear from his family, and I never did call to find out. But.
Okay. What did you go on to do as a career after the war?
Good Lord, girl. I farmed, carpentered, and worked for the ASCS office. Then in later years I went to Lookout Mountain is a fire policeman, and I retired from there. I worked there 17 years.
Do you think your time in World War II kind of influenced your thinking of the military and war in general as time went on?
I don't know, it influenced me a lot, I guess.
How do you think it affected your life?
I don't really know. Maybe it made me grow up faster. You had to. See, I was just a 18-year-old. When you went in service, you had to grow up fast.
Do you think that positively influenced your life, or?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I mean.
Let's see. What does it mean for you to be a veteran?
Well, I'm just proud I got to serve my country. That's about all. I did serve, though. And I'm proud that I did.
And what were your years in service again?
From 43 to 46. I went in November 43 and got out the 22nd of April 46.
Okay. What does Veterans Day as a whole mean to you?
I don't really pay too much attention to it.
You don't?
It's just another day, really. But I know the veterans, they need to be thought of. I think they need to be remembered. I don't guess there's many left in this county. You don't have any left in this county?
From World War II? Just, I think, a handful. There's not many left.
They got to be in their 90s.
My grandpa this year, he would have been 102.
He would. I'm just 95. I'm a kid, isn't I?
What would you say to generations now and future generations of?
I'd say they call us a greater generation. And I believe they'd be better off if they acted like we did when we were going. Well, I'm just glad I could serve, right?